Good morning to you. It's Daybreak at iFiber One News Radio. I'm Jeff Slakey. At this time, we welcome in some great guests from the Mason County Sheriff's Office. We're going to talk with Mason County Sheriff Casey Salisbury as well as Ryan Spurling. Good morning, guys.
Morning.
Morning.
How are you guys doing?
Great.
Happy Thanksgiving, first things first,
Yes.
coming up this week. It's going to be a fun week for folks as a lot of people are in town to celebrate the Thanksgiving holidays. Let's start first with your beard there, Casey. It's coming in pretty good, and this is all part of an effort to help raise funds for men's awareness for health and then also into the Special Olympics, right?
Yes.
It's looking nice.
Well,
You can check it
I'm
out on
not
the
much
video
for
here.
beards, but I'll tell you, last week I think we laid down the gauntlet, and you'd asked about who might have the best
Yeah.
beard. And so I mentioned Lieutenant Dracaby, and I got a text over the weekend. Kind of, it said he got permission. So I think he's in the race.
In
He
the
probably has a
running.
full beard this morning, knowing
That's
Jason.
funny.
So,
That's
and then
funny.
the chief is restarting. He had
Yeah.
to go to academy for graduation, so he didn't feel comfortable going up there.
Well, somebody's got to look good and represent Mason
So-
County Sheriffs.
Well, after 30 years, wearing a full dress uniform and having whiskers on just doesn't fit together.
Sure.
So I couldn't bring myself to do it, representing the sheriff up there with somebody graduating from the academy. So I had to shave it off and start over.
If you're gonna do these things, sometimes it's best to have 2 weeks off, so you're not in front of the limelight, and then you show back up, and you're like, oh, hey.
Kind of an interesting thing. I was over at the Washington Association Sheriffs and Police Chiefs meeting last week, and there's a few of the sheriffs and chiefs, and I've even had some people contact me on the internet and say, oh, you should relax and let everybody have beards. And I'm not necessarily a fan of that in uniform, but I think for this 2 months for these events, to give you a chance, and I said last week, some of us have gone 30 years without ever even having the opportunity to try this and do this. So I think it was for a good cause. So for the next 2 months, and then we'll be back to work.
Well, you know why we can't. There's a couple different reasons why we
Tell
don't
me
wear
why.
it.
The sheriff was saying just because it doesn't look good.
Yeah, the
there's some-
professionalism is one big part. The other part is it doesn't allow a gas mask to seal.
Oh,
So
interesting.
if you're in any type of riot situation or a situation where you need to have a protective mask to protect your respiratory system, it won't seal with the whiskers. So along with the military, that's one of the reasons
Huh.
that they do it. And it's-
Firefighters.
Firefighters too. Interesting.
Yeah, that's
So
real
there are
problematic
other
for them.
reasons.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's where we're at.
Now we know that one.
Well, I have Ryan here to talk about something today that I think it's kind of a special thing for us in the sheriff's office. As you know, I've actually had the chance a couple of years ago to go to the National Law Enforcement Memorial, and a great friend of mine's name is on there. But some of the folks in our office discovered that we had a person that actually within the sheriff's office that passed away that was actually on duty, and so they submitted the request to have his name put on the Law Enforcement Memorial, and that has been granted. And I'll let Ryan fill you in on the details.
Yeah.
Well, it was a retired Chief Deputy Dean Byrd who found an article from the Mason County Journal back in 1944 of the death of a chief criminal deputy. And his name was Fred Hickson, and we've got a picture of him because his daughter still lives here in town, Doris Meyer, who lives up on the hill, and she's in her 90s. And there's a whole story as to how Doris was involved with Fred. But Fred had worked at Mel Chevrolet as a parts person, and then he was actually appointed as a chief criminal deputy, and he'd also been in World War I, and he was involved with the military. So he became a chief criminal deputy during the war, and he was working on the elevator in the courthouse on a Friday evening, and Monday morning they came in and found him, and he was deceased at the bottom of the elevator shaft. They don't know whether he got shocked and fell or if he fell, but he was deceased, so he did die in the line of duty. And with that article and with the information and a picture of him, we were able to send it back. Chief Russ Osterhout did the paperwork. He's really good at administrative stuff, and he sent it back to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund, and Chief Hickson's name is going to be added to the memorial in D.C.
Wow.
Now, for law enforcement, it's really critical that we honor those that have fallen in the line of duty. That's a big deal to
Yeah.
us. It's woven into our fabric to do that. And we wear the mourning bands when we lose an officer and that type of stuff. And we also have ceremony at different memorials. And we've also put in the paperwork to have him put on the Washington Memorial at the Capitol in Olympia as well. And it's a big deal, and we were able to notify the family and honor him, and it was very exciting to them as well.
Wow, what a story. Almost not necessarily lost to history, but definitely overlooked, I guess.
I mentioned just because I was there and had the opportunity when we were there, each agency read the names of a person from their agency that passed away, and many people around here would know her as Tina as Tina DeLong that we grew up with, but Tina Griswold that died in Lakewood.
Mm-hmm.
I read her name at the national recognition for law enforcement there one year when I was there, and so on the wall there, it's a pretty solemn place to go there, like any of the memorials are. But I just thought I'd mention Tina's name and how much we miss her and what she gave in Lakewood with the other three. So I thought it was a really neat thing that the chiefs got together, and former Chief Dean Byrd and the current chiefs got together and submitted this in honor of somebody from our county.
Wow. And any distinction or notification going to be going up around the county for this, or?
Well, we put a picture on our wall as well, as far as in the sheriff's office, and I don't know if it'll be around the county. That'll be something in the future, but obviously this happened in the World War II wasn't over, so it would be something that was kind of overshadowed by the war.
Sure. Wow, what a story, and what a nice way to put a bow on that here at the end to kind of for some closure for the families. Very neat. Interesting. Anything else, Sheriff Salisbury, to pass along before we let you out of here?
I'm predicting rain.
Plenty of it out there. My
Please,
gosh.
Yeah. Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. Talk to me a little bit about a lot of folks will be driving after dinner, and you hear that you get tired after turkey, but maybe a little bit of that wine didn't help too much either.
I'll
so
let
what can
our
we
former
folks?
trooper cover driving. I'm sure he had some days out there working over Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
One of the busiest road days of the year is Thanksgiving, either short distance or long distance, both. So just be prepared for that. And as you can tell, the weather, a lot of freestanding water, and again, drinking and driving doesn't mix. You don't want to have a holiday end in tragedy, and I've seen it happen so many times. So please have our listeners make sure that they're wise. And tryptophan and turkey and food, and you go into a little bit of a diabetic coma there, with too much food and blood sugar and insulin in the body. So be careful. Pull over if you're tired. It's just really not worth getting into a tragic accident.
Chief Spurling. Oh yes, sir. Go ahead.
Just this time of year, I know that for most of us, or many of us, the holiday seasons are pretty, a joyous, festive time, but it isn't for everybody.
Right.
And it actually makes it tougher. And it's really a tough time of year for law enforcement. I think that you'll find that November, December, and January are very, very difficult months for families in tough circumstances, or individuals in tough circumstances. So please remember that it's not exactly festive for everybody, and there's other people that can use your help.
Yeah, very good. Well said. Sheriff Salisbury, Chief Spurling, good to see you guys. Happy Thanksgiving.
All right.
We'll see you next week.